You don't need a complicated spreadsheet to budget. You just need 3 numbers and 5 minutes. So if you've never budgeted before, a lot of the budgets out there can seem really overwhelming and overcomplicated. You might see spreadsheets like this that offer you 40 different categories and ask you to track every single expenditure and link it to your app and all these kind of things. You don't need any of that. Now that's great if you understand a budget and if you're at that level, but this is a 5-layer system. If you see the video on my page, you'll understand how we get to something like this. But for the very basics of somebody who just wants to start out, all you need is 3 numbers. I'm Afshin, an accountant, and I'm going to show you the very simplest way to build your very first budget. So as we spoke about before, here's why a lot of people seem to give up. You open a budget spreadsheet and it gives you 40 categories. It gives you all these different, it tells you how to download all of your data, but you don't really need that. What you actually need here on the right hand side is your income, your expenditure, and what's left over. So let's dive into how we would build something very simple. So also a note, this is built on Excel. You don't even need Excel. You can use Google Sheets, which is free, or even better, pen and paper if that's what works for you, because you can then hang it up on your fridge or wherever it is that you like to look at it. So here are the 3 numbers. The first one, very basic, income. This is what comes into your bank account every month. Now this might vary if you're working a minimum wage job and your hours change weekly, but let's assume that you're on a fixed salary. So we'll assume that we're making £2,500. Now this isn't your salary pre-tax divided by 12, this is how much hits your bank account. Now let's assume you've started a small side hustle, but your income slightly varies, or you are working various hours every month. So what we would usually do is do an average of about 3 months. So let's say 3 months ago I made £40, and 2 months ago I made £30, but this month I've actually made 50. Now all you need to do is add those 3 numbers and divide by 3. So if you're on a Google Sheets or you're on an Excel, equals this number, and then you put plus this number, enter. That gives you your total, and then again you do equals your new number divided by 3. So this is the number we're going to use. So it gives us the best idea of how much we probably would make in a month. So we're going to put £40 in here, and this would also work for wages if you're doing various hours every month. So let's just clear this up. So if there's any other income like renting out a room, you can also put it in here. So let's assume we don't have anything at the moment. So next we want to look at our essentials, and these are things that we spend every single month. Now there's usually 2 types of essentials, but we're going to ignore all of that and keep it very, very simple. These are things that we either have to spend every month or that we want to spend every month. So the key here is to try not to forget anything. So go through your expenditure, go through your bank account and see what am I actually spending. And the hardest part is doing this at the very start to find out all your different kinds of expenditure. Once you've done it once, it's very easy to update. Now if you're really just starting out, don't worry about getting this down to the very pound. You can even just round it up if that's easier. So we've filled everything in and we've put in all of our expenditure, and we've added in things like subscriptions for Netflix or Amazon Prime, and maybe another essential that you really have. And then you're going to add up all of these. Now, if you have a spreadsheet, you can do a sum value. So you do equals sum, and you just drag it down over all the numbers. Or if I've already lost you can just do equals, and you just click each cell and do add and enter. And that will give you the total expenditure that you have every month. And the third number that we're looking at is how much is then left over. So we're just taking the top number minus the second number gives us the third number. And this is how much we have to spend every month. Now this can be for saving, this could be for fun, this could be for holidays, takeaways, whatever it is that you feel like you want to spend it on. So if we did want to go into a little bit more detail of the essentials, we like to split them into 2 different categories. One is things that we can't really change. So this would be considered probably the first 5 or 6. You can't really change your rent or mortgage, council tax and bills. And then we have the things that are still essential but that we can change. So for instance, you could spend a little bit less on shopping, or you could maybe get a bus pass instead of using a car if you really had to, or you could cancel a subscription or 2. So let's look at an example where we don't have money to spare because we're spending more than we're bringing in. So here we have some costs that are a little bit updated, and we're saying that we're spending £2,630 a month, but we're only making £2,540 a month, which means that actually we're spending too much and we're overspending by £90. And the way to look at that is, well, you can't really change any of these unless maybe your broadband or phone is up for renewal. So then we have to look at these categories as where we're going to try and save some money. Now the easiest one is probably food shopping, because you can make some sacrifices to maybe what brands you use or what you're eating. So we want to try and bring this number of £90 down to at least 0 so that we're not losing any money every month. So we're going to try and set ourselves a budget of £250 on food shopping, and we need to keep track of that over the month. And then maybe we decide that we're paying for Netflix and Amazon and we only need one of them. So we still need to try and save £25 somewhere. Now really, if you have insurance locked in, you can't actually change that. And of course, childcare, if you are working and there's no other way around that, that's quite fixed. And if you're only trying to save £25, maybe that means that you walk a little bit more or you get a bus sometimes. So let's say we do want to try and save that £25 there. So we want to reduce that by £25. And here now we have a budget that works for us so that we're not overspending every month. Now this is all dependent on you and what you find as an essential and something that you can't give up. But if you are spending more than you're bringing in, you really have to look at it and say, where can I save some money? So let's go back to our previous example where we did have money to spare. So what do you do with that extra money? Well, we have a few ideas down here. Ideally, you want to make sure that you're saving things before you start spending on any extra takeaways or fun stuff. And that can be as little as £20. People think that to save, you really have to start going into the hundreds. You don't need to do that. But let's say in this scenario, we have £370 left over. So maybe a good target is about £100 to £150 to save. Now, the very key here that most people make a mistake on is do not wait until the day before the next payday to put the rest of the money into your savings. As soon as you're paid, if your target is £100 to save, that £100 has to go out of your account into your savings account. And you then know you have £270 left for the rest of the month. If you leave the £370 in your account and you say, I will transfer out £100 at the end of the month, you might then overspend it. At least this way you know you don't have the option for that. So when you're first starting, I would always try and prioritize one goal. So what is it you're trying to save? Is it a holiday? Are you trying to pay off certain debts? Are you trying to save to buy a house? Really focus on that and use that as your motivation. And whatever's left after that is your fun money. You still need to live your life. You still need to socialize. You still need to order takeaways. Make sure that you have that without any guilt. Now, if you do want this very simple spreadsheet, I'll put a free link to it in the description. Go and get it, start your budget. And when you feel a little bit more confident, check out my other video on the 5-layer system and start to build towards that and really start to build out your budget. So 3 numbers, your income, your essentials, your expenditure, and the amount you have left. That's it. It's that simple. Get started today. It takes 5 minutes. Please subscribe because there'll be many more helpful videos coming out soon. And again, this is not financial advice. Speak to a qualified financial advisor if you feel like you need one. See you next time.